Wheelchairtraveling.com presents
an exclusive interview with Martin Heng, an accessible and inclusive travel advocate and world explorer. Hello, everyone. This is Ashley from wheelchairtraveling.com. When most people hear about accessible travel, usually they think of ramps and elevators, hotel rooms, and checklists. But accessibility is about something much bigger: good design, thoughtful planning, and making travel accessible to everyone. Today, I'm joined with Martin Heng, who worked with Lonely Planet for more than 20 years and helped to bring accessible travel into the mainstream. He's now working on accessibility initiatives across Australia, including hotel accessibility standards, audio travel experiences, and helping tourism businesses better understand accessible travel. Martin, I'm really glad you're here.
It's my pleasure, Ashley. Thanks for inviting me.
Let's start with Melbourne, since that's home for you.
Yeah.
For wheelchair travelers, how accessible is Melbourne overall?
I'd rate it pretty highly. And John Morris was here as well. I saw him last year or the year before, and he also rates it very highly. Um, it's The infrastructure's not too bad. I guess the further out from the central business district you get, the pavements degrade a little bit, but all the public transport is accessible. The buses are all great. The trains are great. The only problem is the trams. The trams are a bit of a disaster, and I've had an ongoing kind of gripe with the Yarra trams
Hmm.
because they have some low floor trams and kind of phasing them in slowly, but you need low floor trams and they need to marry up with um, raised platforms and quite often you can have a low floor tram but no stop to get off at, or you can have a stop that's accessible but no trams are accessible. So yeah, the trams are the only problem with Melbourne's public transport. But
But
otherwise,
stations for other public transportation, how are those? Are those overall
very
accessible?
good, very good. The only problem I think in terms of the trains, they're all accessible, except you have to rely on the driver to put the ramp out. So you have to be at the front of the platform when the train pulls in, and then the driver will get out and put a ramp out for you. So it's not independent. That's my problem with the trains, is there's no independent access because there's the need for the driver to get out and put a ramp out for you, and they
Mhm.
also have to remember to get to let you off again. And there's no system for that. They just use post-it notes stuck on their dashboard. So occasionally you can be left stuck on the train if the driver forgets where you're getting off because you have to tell them when you're getting off.
I
So
haven't
I
done in
usually open I
years.
usually open the door and then wedge the door open so the train can't move off, and then he goes, "Oh yeah, there's somebody get off the train here. I forgot. Sorry, mate."
Yeah, that can definitely be problematic. What about taxis?
We are blessed in Melbourne, actually, in that we have a very, very large kind of stock of wheelchair accessible vans. They're like maxi taxis. The only problem is if you go through the kind of central 1-3 cabs number, you can be waiting for up to 2 hours. So what most people that I know is they have one or two trusted taxi drivers, and you call them up, and actually it's much more efficient and much quicker to if you have your own contacts. So I have,
That's a really good tip. Once you find a good one, to get their phone number, and
yeah,
while you're still traveling around, you have that kind of in
absolutely,
your back pocket.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
I was actually really impressed with that, with the taxi system, and just I've never seen such a big taxi, and the way that they were able just to flip seats up and make it wheelchair accessible, not even just for one wheelchair, but multiple
yeah,
wheelchairs could definitely ride in. I thought that was really impressive and something that I haven't really seen traveling.
yeah. All the maxi cabs can take two wheelchairs,
Mhm.
and they've got a electric hoist at the back, so it's really easy. There's plenty of headroom. That's the problem I'm finding in lots and lots of countries is that you might have a wheelchair accessible taxi, but because I have a very long torso and a big wheelchair, there's not enough headroom.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
that's the case with all the London, all the London cabs. Oh, all the London cabs are accessible. You know, anyone with a wheelchair can get in any London cab, but you know, you end up sitting in there bent over double because there's no headroom.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, my partner, Steven, yeah, he's also really tall, so that's always an issue for him in accessible taxi. So having that extra room just makes it more comfortable for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So if somebody were visiting Melbourne for the first time, what are a few places that you could recommend that are accessible?
Look, I think most sites of or places of interest, points of interest are accessible. Not only that, most points of interest, if you have if you're local and you have a companion card, you can get one free ticket for any sporting or arts or cultural event. You get one free ticket for your support worker, which is great.
Oh,
Um,
that's
so,
fantastic.
but a lot, I mean, there are problems with accessibility usually, and we have this all over the world. There's the single step, the single threshold step to get into a shop. Now that's a bit of a problem in Melbourne, not only in the city but in the outskirts as well, in the suburbs. Um, so
Is that
newer.
everywhere or just, at random shops?
It's worldwide, but particularly in Melbourne, the
Okay.
older buildings, there's one threshold step. For the sake of a skirt ramp or $50 or $100 on a portable ramp, it's really criminal that so many places are inaccessible just because of that one single step.
hmm is there anything in particular in terms of attractions or whatnot or areas that you are particularly fond of, by the waterfront or maybe a museum or I don't know, garden or cafe, something?
Oh, there's some great places in Melbourne. The Botanic Gardens are fully accessible, and they're very beautiful. And the whole arts precinct, which is and the sports precinct, which are also by the Botanic Gardens in the
hmm
south of the central business district. All the museums are fully accessible. They're also the museums are really leading the way in terms of catering to neurodiverse community. So they have sensory kits. They have quiet hours. They have quiet rooms. And so yeah, I think like in much of the world, the museums and galleries are leading the way when it comes to kind of accessibility, particularly for the neurodiverse communities.
Excellent. And so besides museums, which I found that they typically would have accessible facilities, um, is there any trouble finding public restrooms around Melbourne when nature calls?
Again, not really. There's also something called the National Toilet Map, which you can download as an app, which gives you all the toilets everywhere. So you can just use the National Toilet Map. But you don't usually have to go too far before you can find a toilet. And certainly in the centre of the city, there are plenty around. And we also have a lot more increasing numbers of changing places toilets. Do you have changing places
Mhm.
toilets in the US? So they're equipped with the adult size change table and a hoist, and usually you just have to bring your own sling. Um, and those
Okay.
changing places toilets, they're also kind of protected, as it were, because they're only open. You can only get in if you have a key, and you can only get a key if you qualify for having a key.
Oh, I
So
love that. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like a lot of the kind of accessible toilets are used by a number of kind of different kinds of people. You get people going in there for romantic encounters. You get people, particularly women, going in there after work to go and get changed into their going out clothes and do their makeup. And I've waited outside public toilet accessible toilets and have had women coming out having done all their makeup and after work changing. But having some that are only accessible by key is a really good feature.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about shops that often have a step up into it. Does that also include restaurants or do they have a
Yep.
different code? Okay.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, it's a number of times that I've been out with friends and we kind of roll down the street and we're just waiting, oh dear, step,
Yeah.
until you finally find a restaurant that doesn't have a step.
Yeah.
And it's all, and also people don't, what people don't understand is that, wheelchair users don't come all in one size. So often I'll call up and say, "Oh, are you accessible? Yeah, we got a little step out the front, but we can help you get in. We got plenty of wheelchair users come in, not realizing that they're manual wheelchair users, and it's very easy to tip up and give them a hand up. But I have a wheelchair that weighs 200 kilograms, and
Hmm.
then I'm on top of that, so we're talking about 280 kilograms. No one's going to pick me up and put me over a step.
Nope.
People think, oh yeah, wheelchairs. Yeah, we have plenty of wheelchair users in here, but they're not realizing that there's a big difference between a manual wheelchair and a power wheelchair.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the map to accessible restrooms, now did I understand that correctly? You said that is that throughout Melbourne or is that throughout the country of
No,
Australia?
it's the national toilet map, so it has all restrooms and but I mean, obviously it has a little wheelchair symbol for accessible bathrooms, and that's yeah, it's a national toilet map, so
Oh
that's
yeah,
really
that's
useful.
fantastic. So I mean, obviously, I mean, I haven't been to every single destination in the United States, so I don't imagine that you've been to every single destination in Australia, but you could have done that already. Are there any destinations that come to mind in Australia that you know of or you've personally been to, that you just really enjoyed and you would recommend to people thinking about traveling to Australia?
Look, I was in Cairns in far north Queensland, and I found that was really, really nice. There's a huge long esplanade, a 2 kilometer esplanade.
Mhm.
And then most of the shops and the businesses up there are pretty accessible. And probably two of the most accessible businesses that I found are up there as well. One was a Skyrail. So it's uh what do you call it, where you get into a gondola and you go
Hmm.
you go up the mountain, and that
Yes.
was they are one of the most kind of well versed in accessibility that I've ever come across. The staff are really disability confident, and they you call them up. First of all, they know exactly what the situation is. They ask what your needs are. They're fully prepared when you get there, and they listen to you and they help you in the way that you want to be helped, rather than the way they think you might want to be helped. So yeah,
Excellent.
really, really disability aware. And the other organization was Quicksilver Cruises, which runs kind of accessible diving and accessible snorkeling, because they have a pontoon with the chairlift um, into the sea. So that's
Fun.
great. Yeah, so
Fun.
you can sit in the chairlift and get lifted down into the enclosed area. So there's a lifeguard there as well, so it's pretty safe.
Excellent. Yeah, those are some really great ideas. So, overall, what do you think Australia does well when it comes to accessible travel?
Um, I think the best thing is usually the taxis. And that's
Hmm.
particularly Sydney and Melbourne. As you were saying before, it's really great to have a big accessible taxi fleet. Even some really well-developed countries like I was in Sweden last year. It's really hard to find taxis. Just you have to book them in advance, So, and
Yeah,
there are not many around. And as for less developed countries, it's almost impossible. So I think when it comes to accessibility, probably the best thing about Melbourne is or Australia generally is the taxi fleet, the accessible taxi fleet.
yeah, definitely understandable. So, what do you think Australia still needs to improve?
Um, I think awareness would be really great. More and more awareness. As we were saying before, it's not all about ramps and toilets. It's not. It's
Hmm.
much more about just general awareness of disability. Uh, Awareness that I always try and bring about is awareness that not all people with disability are sitting in wheelchairs. We're like less than 5% of the disabled population. So when we're talking about accessibility or inclusivity, don't get fixated on wheelchairs. There are so many. Just because a place is not wheelchair accessible doesn't mean that it can't be accessible for so many other people with disability. And not to kind of think about, oh, look, we're not accessible, and making assumptions about what people can and can't do. So again, taking myself as an example, um, I was stuck. I bought a ticket to a cinema, and there's one of these multiplexes, and most of the cinemas are accessible, but the one I happened to buy a ticket for was inaccessible. I just had to have stairs to go up. But I was with my family, so I can walk a short distance. So I didn't have my walker, but I had people with me. So I was able to walk up those steps and sit in the cinema.
Mhm.
Um, if I had called and said, "Oh, I'm a wheelchair user," and they would say, "Oh, sorry, it's not accessible." Whereas, every person is individual, every person is unique, and our functionalities are unique. So, if people didn't make assumptions and just gave us the information about what is there and what isn't there, we can make our own minds up about whether it's suitable or not.
Absolutely. And yeah, not making assumptions. That's exactly what I was thinking. And that's why when you're talking about one of your recommendations that I was just, convinced that this place had to have been really well trained, just to have the etiquette, again, not to assume what you need or what you want, but just know what questions to ask, just allowing you to speak and provide the information that you need, and everybody can, plan accordingly.
Yeah, it's really about awareness, and I
Absolutely.
often say it's just ask. The best thing to do is just ask and then listen. And you can overcome so many accessibility barriers by just asking and listening and then acting on what the person tells you. Because as you're aware, we are the experts in our own bodies. We know what we can and can't do safely.
Yes.
And we also are grown-ups, and we can decide whether or not something we consider something to be safe or not. We don't need to be told, "Oh, we don't think it's right for you," because we can make our own minds up. So, there are times when people think that something isn't safe or isn't accessible. But it's like, well, hey, I'm a grown up. I can make my own decisions. Thank you very much.
Yes.
But yeah, this awareness is really, really important. Um, and a willingness to be flexible and a willingness to, and I think that goes both ways. I need to be flexible in terms of what I'm prepared to do, and other people and providers need to be flexible in terms of what they can do. So I was in India, for example, several years ago, and there was one attraction where there were so many steps. I Many wheelchair users wouldn't like this, but I wanted to see this particular attraction in Jaipur. So I was happy to go in a manual wheelchair and be carried up and down the steps in a manual wheelchair. Lots of people wouldn't be willing to be picked up and carried in a wheelchair. But I was. But that enabled me to see this palace in Jaipur. So again, that showed my flexibility. So it's not just one way. I think it has to be
Mhm.
both ways.
Yes, I mean, just alone being flexible, I think that's just a great tip in general for wheelchair travelers. And you've definitely given a few tips already in this conversation, but is there anything else you can think of off the top of your head that might be a good practical tip for people traveling around Australia?
Um, my biggest piece of advice to everybody is double check. Don't trust what you see on the website. Always call ahead and talk to somebody if possible. Or if you can't, then email
Hmm.
or text or chat,
Hmm.
just to be really, really clear what the circumstances and what the conditions on the ground are before you go somewhere, to avoid like disappointment or disaster. So no matter what it says, or no matter what you think about it, it's always best to ring ahead and talk to somebody and check.
Definitely. So, kind of moving topics a little bit, when it comes to hotels and accessibility, if a hotel really wants to be accessible, what are the most important things they should do to ensure that it's correct?
Um, give give their guests as much information as possible on the website, and also, if possible, uh, really allow people to book an accessible room on the website. So they're guaranteed to have the room, not you book a room and then you call up and say, "Oh, by the way, I need an accessible room." And
Yeah,
then, "Oh, sorry, we have none available." So I think I think it's really, really important to be able to find a room and book a room that meets your needs on before you even get there, before rather than rock up and say, I need an accessible room, or turning up and say, I booked an accessible room, and then finding that it's actually been given to somebody else.
Hmm.
So I think that from my point of view, that's the most important thing, is to be guaranteed that room that you think you're going to get.
And I know I've run into issues, and I know I'm sure all and anybody who's listening have run into issues when it comes to mix up with hotels and them not being as accessible as they claim to be, or yeah, rooms not
Yeah.
being available, or it's not what you booked, or yeah, there's just so many different
Yeah,
situations.
and I think the main problem the main design fault in most accessible rooms is the fact is the placement of the shower chair and or the bed, the bench and the hose. So often you have the shower on the opposite side from the bench, and so it's impossible for an independent wheelchair user to do it at all. Um,
Yes,
or having soap dispensers that are out of reach from the shower chair or the shower stool. So the design of bathrooms is often a problem. All
yes,
the accessibility features are there, but they're not put there. The bathroom isn't designed in such a way that it's actually usable.
definitely. That's definitely a huge one of my big pet peeves when it comes to hotels. And I've been seeing more and more where at hotels where they have the soap and conditioner and shampoo actually mounted on the wall where you can't even,
You can't take them off.
you can't even move them and portably, put them in a
Yep.
position that's convenient for yourself. So then you might have to call the front desk and have them remove that or have an alternative solution. But yeah, just move it closer, folks,
Yep.
especially with the accessible
Or
room.
have it so that you can choose to take it off the wall and
Yeah.
have the soap dispenser right sitting next to you.
Yeah, we're having two
Yes.
sets. I mean, there's definitely ways to solve this problem.
So
Absolutely.
the design of bathrooms, and it's not even the accessible features. It's actually the physical layout of the bathroom is not often thought through well.
Well, they're just all very different too.
Oh, there is no standard, of course.
Yeah. So I know you've been working on audio accessibility. So do you think audio guides are going to become a bigger part of accessible travel in the future?
Look, I don't know if they're a bigger part of accessible travel. I do know that that uh, I don't know. Think about it this way: how many people read anymore? Not many. So if you look at the popularity of podcasts,
Hmm.
um, there's been this huge rise in the popularity of podcasts. And what these audio guides are like they're like a bit of a they're like a podcast really.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm just looking at the figures. 2 billion podcast listeners worldwide at the moment. And it's growing up by about 40 to 50, sorry, 20 to 30% per year growth
Wow.
in the number of podcasts. So people read less and less and listen more and more. Um, so in terms of the audio guides, yes, they're great for people they're designed for people who are blind or have low vision. But we have a mandatory accessibility section at the end of every guide. So there's the accessibility information is pan disability. It's not just for people who are blind and low vision. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I could picture myself being on an airplane or so, and flying to a destination, and I'm listening to an audiobook of, or um, an audio guide of the place I'm going to, just to prepare
yeah.
myself.
Yeah, it's and exactly that. And what we found with Vacate is there's this audience that we never we never considered in the neurodiverse community.
Hmm.
So it's like they're used often like a social story.
Yeah.
So it's people can familiarize themselves with this with the destination or the point of interest or the site,
Hmm.
the tourist site. They know what to expect and they're kind of immersive guides, so they might get a good feeling of if it's noisy or quiet or what the stimuli are going to be like. So
Yeah, I love that.
there is a kind of unexpected audience in the neurodiverse community for our audio guides to be
Fantastic.
treated like social stories.
Martin, so what's the biggest misconception the tourism businesses still have about accessibility?
That it's all about wheelchairs, that it's all about toilets, that it's all about ramps, and that it's all about that the accessibility is a financial impost and a financial burden rather than a business opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So that's really the heart of it is people not seeing it as a business opportunity, but as a compliance issue, and a cost issue.
hmm,
Whereas if they see it as a business opportunity and use accessibility as a marketing strategy, they could actually grow their market. Um,
definitely. There's money to be made, absolutely.
there's so much money to be made, and one of the biggest things that one of the biggest points that I always make when I'm talking is demographic change. The world's population is aging so rapidly, and I think in by 2050 there'll be 2 billion people
Yeah.
who are over 65. And as you get older, you inevitably develop age-related access needs.
Hmm.
Um, and governments are already struggling with this kind of are there enough working people paying taxes to be able to support an aging population? And so this is something that needs to be addressed at a policy level on all things, including tourism. So in my mind, if tourism businesses want to survive into the future, they're going to have to cater to this kind of increasingly older demographic with increasing access needs. So it's not just a question of um, uh, getting more business now. It's a question that if you don't adapt, you're within 40, 30 or 40 years, your business is going to fail. So
Of
now is the
course.
time.
Mhm.
Now is the time to becoming to put thought and resources and budget into accessibility to cater to this incredibly um, quickly growing market of the aging traveler, and it's a huge business opportunity because people retiring these days are not kind of saving their money up to give it to pass it on to their kids. They go, I've earned my retirement and I'm going to
Yes.
spend the money. So I know plenty of retirees who go on 3 or 4 overseas trips a year because they have the money to do it. The cashed up baby boomers. This is an opportunity. It's huge opportunities to increase your revenue by tapping into this baby boomer market, the retirees.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. It's exploding, and I feel like yeah, definitely the next 3 to 7 years is just even gonna explode even more. So businesses all need to get on it. Martin,
and
I
the
have
other
one last question for you. What gives you hope about the future of accessible travel?
Um, I think the fact that since UNWTO in 2017 declared that the year for tourism for all, I think in the subsequent 8 or 9 years, there's been a huge uptick in interest and knowledge about this, and I've seen that in global NGOs who've been contacting me to talk at their conferences and contracting me to make to devise training courses for them, like the Global Sustainable Tourism Council.
Mhm.
And I've got a very good relationship with them, and I've developed online training, and I've also delivered face-to-face training. So it's sustainability as also which is kind of they're expanding into accessibility as well. Um, so I think there's a lot more interest and knowledge about accessibility and inclusivity now than there was 10 years ago.
Absolutely. Martin, so how can people stay in contact with you, follow you, know what kind of projects you're working on and how you're making accessible tourism better?
Well, I do have a website which I haven't really populated yet. So the best way to get in touch with me is actually via LinkedIn.
Martin, yeah, you've done so much for the tourism industry so far. Thank you so much, not only
Thank
just
you.
for your work, but obviously for helping accessible travel move forward.
Yeah, well, I always describe myself as an inclusive travel advocate, and I do advocate a lot.
Hmm.
And the
Yes, you
other thing
do.
is, I'm really trying to shift I'm trying to shift the perception away from accessibility and more to inclusivity because I think that's more helpful. Because accessibility, inevitably, people think about access and think about this, this single threshold step or wheelchairs. If you talk about inclusivity, it's much, it broadens people's perception.
Yeah, it's just welcoming. It's a very
Yeah.
welcoming word.
Yeah. And also it highlights the fact that yeah, improving accessibility is really, good customer service, which is, as I'll say, finding out what your customers want and need and catering to those needs. And that's much more of an inclusive mindset than a kind of accessibility mindset.
Yes, I agree. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I just want to share that accessible travel isn't a small niche. It's about better design, better cities, better hotels, and a better travel experience for everyone, a more inclusive world. Thank you for watching, and please visit wheelchairtraveling.com.